Land doesn't cash flow. That's what I hear all day long from everyone that is involved in real estate. However, in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 different ways that you can make land cash flow without selling the land, without doing anything to the land, just simply by using creative strategies. So the holy grail of real estate investment is actually cash flow. If you flip land or flip real estate or flip houses or flip mobile home parks or flip multi-family properties, it's still an active business. The moment you stop flipping, the income stops. So the goal of real estate investing is actually not to flip. The goal is to make money flipping so that you then have the money and reinvest that in assets that you hold on to and that produce cash flow forever. Well, one of the asset classes that I particularly love, and there's a lot of it out there, but that's mostly completely misunderstood, is land. Because you can actually make land cash flow. And right here, I'm going to share with you at least 5 different strategies to make land cash flow, and potentially, actually probably going to add a couple of bonus strategies at the very end of the video. So let's jump right into that. So a while ago, we bought a piece of land. It was a commercial piece of land on a main street in Phoenix, Arizona. And we held on to this land for a while, trying to figure out what to do with it. We got it really cheap. It's worth about $250,000. We got it for $90,000. So we were able to buy this property, and then we had some development plans. So we wanted to perhaps put a medical plaza on there, but we just got busy. And year after year passed by, and the months passed by, and we're just like, we didn't know what to do with it. Until one day, a construction company called us. And they basically said, hey, Jack, I found out that you own this piece of land, and here's our situation. We just got a multi-million-dollar contract. Well, he didn't say multi-million-dollar contract, but he said a long-term contract. I figured it was a multi-million-dollar contract. A long-term contract from the city of Phoenix to do some major road construction work in the area that's close to that property. Now, our office is on the other side of town. It's like 30 miles away. We don't want to have to ship our equipment and our big backhoes and our big tractors and all this kind of stuff every day back to our facility. Instead, we would love to rent your land to simply store our construction materials and our vehicles there overnight as we do this construction work. I was like, well, okay, what are you offering? Well, they offered us a price, and after a little negotiating, we settled on $2,000 a month. Now, we bought this property for $90,000, and they signed an 18-month agreement. So think about it, we paid $90,000 on it, and now we're getting $24,000 a year to just simply rent it. That's not a bad return. That's about a 25% return on our investment for every year that we rented it out. So it's like, of course, we said yes. We made sure that they sign any kind of like environmental kind of things. We didn't know exactly what they would store in there. So the environmental thing was important. But then they started paying us like clockwork. And after the time period was over, they actually rented it for 2 years. We had made $48,000. So we had half our money back already on the lot that we actually bought for $90,000. Well, that's pretty cool. At that point, we decided, you know what, we actually don't want to construct on it. We put it up for sale, and we ended up selling it for $200,000. So this is a success story on both ways, but also it's a success story on cash flowing land. If you have a piece of land well positioned, reach out to certain companies that might need to store something on it, and you might have a tenant for your land. That's strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is particularly important if you have land in wooded areas. Timberland is a little known gold mine for you if you want to get into that space. Here's the thing, trees are valuable. Did you know that sometimes you can buy, let's say, a 10-acre piece of land for $100,000, but the timber, the trees on the land is worth $120,000? So one of our students does exactly that. He focuses on finding land with trees on it. Then he goes, buys the land, and he sells the timber on the land, already pre-sells it before he even closes on the property. So what happens is a timber company comes, while he has the land in escrow, he hasn't purchased it yet, a timber company comes, evaluates how much timber is on the land, gives him a price, and let's say they offer him $120,000 for the timber. He says yes, and then he arranges for them to wire the money into the title company. before escrow, and then he uses the timbers company $100,000 to pay the seller, buy the property, puts $20,000 in his pocket, and then he owns the property. Now he owns the property with timber, with all the timber, but he sold the timber. So the next day after closing, the timber company comes in with all the equipment. They take down all the trees. They take the wood with them. But now he has an empty property, but it's free and clear, and it put $20,000 in his pocket. Now how cool is that? Now how is that cash flow? Well, in this case, it's only one-time cash flow. But what you do is, if you're smart, what he does, he takes part of the $20,000 that he made and then spends something on reforesting, on buying seedlings, reforesting the entire land, and then basically just doesn't care about it anymore. Sits there, lets the tree grow for the next 25 years, and in 25 years from now, he calls the timber company again and they pay him an extra $120,000. Now you might say, Jack, well, in this case, I have to wait 25 years. Well, what if you do this 100 times? What if you do that on an ongoing basis and you have a property with ripe timber every 3 months coming up? Now you get paid every single 3 months forever. Because property 1 comes up, you sell the timber, 50 grand. You sell the next property comes up, sell the timber, 100 grand. Next property comes up, sell the timber. And by the time you threw the last property, the timber on this one has grown again and you can start right from scratch. So all you need to do is do this deal 100 times, and every single time the timber pays for the land, and you got a perpetual cash flow where you get paid every single quarter for the rest of your life and your children's life and your children's children's life. How crazy is that? There's creative ways to make land cash flow. The third way is the most well-known way. You can have your land be used by farmers. They can use it as grazing land. You can use it for agriculture, for grazing crops, and you get a percentage of whatever the crop value is once it's sold. You can do all these kind of different agricultural uses for the land. Obviously, that's well known. As a matter of fact, something you might not know is that of all asset classes in the world, including gold, copper, including the stock market, including multifamily, including anything, the number one most appreciating asset class in the last 100 years is actually farmland. So yes, so if you buy some farmland, you can absolutely make it cash flow, and that's obviously what everyone knows about. By the way, if you enjoy this, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to create individual videos for every single one of these strategies that go into much more depth over the next few weeks. So make sure you subscribe right now. The next one that you probably heard about is that you can simply use the land as a place to perhaps put a cell phone tower in there, or if it's in the city, to put a billboard on there, or if it's along the interstate, it's also a great billboard location. Again, remember, we're living in a world where everyone has one of these in their hands. Everyone has a cell phone. The cell phone capabilities become more and more important. The G5 and whatever it's called requires more and more antennas to be placed in shorter and shorter distances from each other. The bandwidth goes faster and faster. So as a result, cell phone towers are continued to be put everywhere. So if you want to participate in that fortune, when you have a piece of land, contact some of the cell phone companies. If you have it in the right location, then they might very well pay you a 35-year lease and pay you every single month for the right to put a cell phone tower on your property. That's another way of creative cash flow from land. Next one, let's go to a couple of more, including the bonus ones. You can also find land, particularly if it's larger land, in the more outskirts of town or a little bit further away from town, that is positioned well and joint venture with a solar company. Now, the solar company might want to buy your land, but perhaps you can also convince them to instead sign a long-term lease. So they put a solar plant on there, a solar farm on there with thousands of solar panels, and you get paid for the land underneath. Again, think about technology. Think about the world that we're living in. There's more and more need to put things on land, and if you have land, you can actually make cash flow of it. The last one, and perhaps a beautiful bonus one, is, hey, where do typically farmers markets happen? And where do flea markets happen? Do they typically happen in a building, or do they typically happen on land? And obviously they happen on land. So if you have a piece of land, you can very easily simply rent it out to these organizations that put together farmers market, flea markets, and you get paid for them too. Now, the cash flow might not be that strong, but at the same time, think about it. How much cash flow do you really need to offset property taxes while your property perhaps is an area that is up and coming and growing and where the value goes to the roof? It's not a whole lot. It just simply allows you to hold on to the property while not having to pay anything out of pocket for property taxes, maintenance, while you allow the value to go up as the neighborhood around it builds up and better buildings and properties and houses are being built there. So again, this is just a little sneak preview into what you can do with land. If you enjoy this session, make sure you subscribe. And also, if you want to know how to get a hold of these kind of properties, then very simply go to landblueprint.com, where I'm going to give you a 30-day blueprint to help you find these exact kind of properties from the comfort of your home, using strategies that allow you to pick up properties like that, in many cases for under 40 cents on the dollar. All right, go there right now.